We are very linked to business strategy from a gender perspective, from a youth point of view, and from a technology arena. And our talent acquisition, the requirements we have within the business are very much linked to those strategies. Everything we do around talent acquisition all falls back into employee brand.
Welcome to the All in Recruitment podcast by Manatal, where we explore best practices, learnings, and trends with leaders in the recruitment space. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channels and on YouTube and Spotify to stay tuned for our weekly episodes. I'm your host, Lydia, and with us today is Seshni Pather of Vodacom. Great to have you with us, Seshni, finally.
Finally. Thank you so much, Lydia. Thanks for having me. It's lovely to be here.
So, very quickly, tell us about your journey in the people space, Seshni. What are some observations that you've made about the industry in recent years?
So, Lydia, I've been in the people space for decades, but always in the recruitment element, resourcing, talent acquisition. We've evolved over the years, and even just that, the observation around what we used to do to what we do is just changed, remarkably, and it's kept me interested. It's kept me in the environment for this long. I think the biggest observation, though, over the last few years is really the integration between talent acquisition and talent management. A few years ago, it was part of my role where, I was, requested or asked to integrate the two. And at first you think, how does this all, work together? But since that journey, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I have now evolved as a recruiter, understanding the candidate's entire journey into being from a candidate being, going into an employee perspective, and their entire journey with an organization is tremendous. And recruiters should be looking at that moving forward. They should be seeing it now. It's not just about, finding great talent and bringing them into the organization, but it's about understanding how they evolve within the organization and how they, promote themselves and how they achieve a higher level of success. And that's where talent management comes in and plays a really, really critical role. So I think, that 10 years ago, you had them as separate centers of excellence, and now I know a lot of organizations do them as one, and that makes sense. It absolutely makes sense because it gives a different narrative to what talent acquisition used to look like. I think that's been the biggest observation for me.
So, Seshni, going back to that talent acquisition and merge, or rather integrate it with talent management, what does it take to bring the two functions together?
I think true integration as communities, and again, in a lot of organizations they sit as separate centers of excellence, but working very closely. That's what we do at Vodacom. Work very, very closely, talent acquisition with talent management, with our counterparts, to understand what is required and what does that journey look like for an individual joining the business. And that's a great success story. So when you're trying to entice that really, really hard to find skill, and you're doing your little headhunt speech, etc., to be able to talk through what that should look like for an individual. It isn't about money. People aren't moving for money. They're not moving for prestige. They're moving for truly meaningful journeys within an organization, proper growth, and understanding that talent management space just equips you to become a better recruiter.
Now, how do you think those experiences or those observations that you've made in that role have lent itself into your new role, which is in talent acquisition and employer branding at Vodacom?
I feel like I've become, a much better recruiter. I think helping the team understand when we look at succession planning and what does succession planning look like? What does your internal slate look like to what is required from an external landscape? It's no longer just going out and market mapping every single critical or scarce position, because you should be looking at your internal bench strength before you go externally. It's about, and we have that. We have a strict policy around, promotions and lateral moves within the organization. But it's about really understanding that, gone are the days where every job is required to be advertised or to be headhunted for. Now it's the integration between what good looks like internally and how do we substitute, or how do we not substitute, but how do we help assist that bench strength internally with some great external talent?
Now, how do you align talent acquisition strategies with a business's overall objectives?
Everything we do, Lydia, everything we do, we have great ambitions. We have huge ambitions as Vodacom in terms of what we're trying to achieve. We are looking very deeply into the youth of South Africa and how do we propel that youth, into the future leaders. We have got a great gender agenda that we are trying to reach from a female perspective. And we are actually not just trying, but we are becoming a tech co versus the old telco that we used to be. And so all of that dictates what we are trying to look for in the marketplace, the types of emerging youth programs that we have in place. And we have some amazing emerging youth opportunities within South Africa. To what are we trying to achieve, bringing in the right female talent and propelling them into leadership. And finally, from a technology perspective, our ambition of becoming a tech co needs talent acquisition to bring in the absolute best technology skills in South Africa. And I think we're doing incredibly well on that.
Now, you lead talent acquisition and the employer brand for Vodacom right now. So how do you make sure that both these functions are integrated strategically rather than function as separate entities?
I think just, from the last question, we are very linked to business strategy from a gender perspective, from a youth point of view, and from a technology arena. And our talent acquisition, the requirements we have within the business are very much linked to those strategies. Everything we do around talent acquisition all falls back into employer brand. If you don't have a very strong brand in the marketplace, you're not going to attract the right talent. So they work very much hand in hand. We have a strategy around employee brand that really is dictated to by talent acquisition and the requirement that we have on a daily basis. Our business as usual, recruitment, our roles, our vacancies, very much then links to what we need to do from an employee brand perspective and the messaging that we want to get out into the market.
So I also understand that Vodacom was voted the employer of choice this year. Is that correct? Was it this year?
Number one top employer, yes.
Top employer for this year in South Africa.
And we're very proud. Proud of that.
So in your opinion, what approaches or what kind of initiatives do you need to help, anyone who has attained this kind of recognition to remain a desirable place to work for candidates?
I think from an employer brand perspective, Lydia, everything we do, we involve our colleagues, we involve our employees. We don't sit in a room and create a video, with a group of actors and models. Quite frankly, we utilize our internal skill and talent within the organization. We did some great Mother's Day content in May where we chose, mums, real Vodacom mums, to tell their stories, from a technology point of view, from an HR point of view as well. And I think that shows the authenticity of the organization. And when you are highlighting great success stories, and we've done this the entire year, Lydia, that's been our employee brand campaign, calendar for the year. Every story we tell, every initiative that we're working on involves actual employees, colleagues who have amazing stories to share. That is what I believe the marketplace wants to hear about. You see great stories online, and you get to an organization and it's an awful place to work, and that's not what we're trying to portray. We are trying to give you a true reflection of what it's like to go work for Vodacom, and that's what I believe helps tell our story. If you're watching, if you were watching the Mother's Day content or the Father's Day content in June and the Father's Day jokes, which were awful but great at the same time, it tells you about what we experience as employees within the organization. And that gives the external audience the reason to want to come and work for us. That's what makes us an employer of choice, apart from, the policies and processes, et cetera, that we have in place as an organization.
So for this particular function, employer branding, I imagine you would have many metrics that you would look for in terms of performance. But how does technology and really the key kind of data that you would look at play a role here?
So we track our employer brand initiatives on a monthly basis, and it's amazing. So it's amazing to think about. You put an idea on paper, and you think, oh, this is going to be great. It's a great initiative, and you then see this come to life. You're part of the shoot, you're part of the prep on the script, etc. And then it goes live, and you watch the impressions, and you watch the interaction with the marketplace. But actually, you have a perception of what is going to look good and what it actually does. And then you get your performance, review at the end of the month on that particular post. And so that's really, really important for us, because we do need to understand how we're tracking. We need to understand what our content is doing within the various social media platforms. And we have an amazing brand team who do that for us on a monthly basis. So it's about tracking that. So we look at success on the type of impressions we're getting, the types of shares and the likes, how people are interacting with our content. And most months we get it really, really spot on and very, very well done. And some months, the content is landing as well as we'd expect. And that's, for us to rejig, to review. So next year, this time, does October, we did a coffee chat post with the talent acquisition team in October to celebrate International Coffee Month, International Coffee Day. There actually is an International Coffee Day. And we featured the talent acquisition team within Vodacom, and they talked to the importance of a coffee chat as part of the selection process. And it was tremendous. And, when you see it on paper, you think, is this going to fly? Is it going to do well? How are the audience going to react to it? And just after it aired, a couple of weeks later, one of my consultants came to me and said, she had a candidate being interviewed at a coffee chat, and they had seen the content, and it really helped the candidate. So not only, did we reach 2 million impressions for that particular post, and, some great shares and likes and comments, it hit home. It hit home to a candidate who utilized the content to better their experience within a coffee chat, and that's what's important.
There was
that's
a real tangible result.
It was real tangible feel. So apart from the numbers and the data that we get from every post that goes live, and we keep track of this to understand how we should do better and what hasn't done well and why. It just helps us on a monthly basis to get better at what we're doing.
Now, Seshni, going back to your experience as a recruiter, this might be way back, looking at your experiences and some of the success stories you would have had. Is there a particular story that you found to be something that has made a huge impression on you that you'd like to share with the audience?
Lydia, there was one that I will never forget, and it probably happened about 20 years ago. And I always use the story because I joined a recruitment agency decades ago in South Africa, really to make a difference in people's lives. Your job is a huge part of your life and your livelihood, and it helps you to provide for your family, etc. And I moved to Scotland. I spent 11 years in Scotland, and one of my first jobs in Scotland was running a call center and language division for an agency. And we recruited about 23 different languages around the world, and a lot of European languages, colleagues, candidates moving into Edinburgh, where I was based. And I found a job for a candidate from the Netherlands. And it was a call center job, and she was thrilled. And, we were thrilled because the skill set and the language was really difficult to find. And it was a great, offer, and the candidate started. And a few months later, the candidate came to our offices, and our receptionist called and said, Sesh, the candidate's here to see you. And when I went downstairs, she had brought her family from the Netherlands to visit her in Edinburgh, and they felt it important to come and meet me to say thank you so much for me, enabling, this candidate to get a job at a really, really good organization in Scotland. And, it was a call center opportunity. But I think for me, what blew me away the most, Lydia, was this is why I got into recruitment, resourcing, talent acquisition in the first place was to help change people's lives for the better. And it was just one of the most incredible memories that I have, like I said, decades ago, just really being able to have such a positive impact on someone's life.
Indeed.
Great opportunity. Great story. I loved it. I loved, the feeling of being able to find this individual a phenomenal job that she really absolutely
and
loved.
recruitment being such a demanding role, and oftentimes I think it's quite thankless in that sense. And then finally having someone come over and just really personally thanking you, I think that would have, I can imagine what kind of impact that would have made. So thank you so much, Seshni, for sharing these insights, these wonderful stories. And for whoever's listening in who might want to connect with you after this, where can they find you?
Absolutely. Various social media social media sites, LinkedIn specifically, it's Seshni Pather. Also, please have a look at, our LinkedIn page as Vodacom. We're doing some amazing things that we're very, very proud of. Come and have a look, come and follow us, come and share your thoughts. But this was lovely, Lydia. I really, really appreciate the time and the opportunity to share my views.
Yeah, it was lovely having you, Seshni. Finally, we have you on the show, and that's great. So thank you again. And we have been in conversation with Seshni Pather of Vodacom. Thank you for joining us. And remember to subscribe. Stay tuned for more weekly episodes from All in Recruitment.